Chapter 1, Beastly Behavior. The biggest, baddest bully. Picture that playground bully. Do they want your lunch money? Or do they want that thing you have? Is your bully filled with hatred and just wants to steal your joy? Whether you did something to antagonize that bully or you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, bullies have the capacity to just ruin your world. King Nebuchadnezzar was an epic bully. He was a rich, powerful king that didn't mess around. When the Jews crossed him, he wiped out most of the country and then destroyed their most precious thing, the Temple of Solomon. That's mean. Here's where it gets horrible. The Jews got the tar beat out of them by their bully, but after the beating, the bully wasn't done. Imagine your playground bully punching you, breaking your favorite toy, and then forcing you to come home with him. Yep, Nebuchadnezzar. Chad took bullying to a whole new level when he took his victims home with him, so he could, put them in their place. Chad, the irredeemable bully, at first glance. But there's something far stranger beneath the surface. Nebuchadnezzar went to sleep one night, feeling properly evil, only to be put in his place. Gargamel from the kids' show Smurfs. Gargamel is a proper villain, right? But imagine him suddenly having a nightmare about Walter White from Breaking Bad, where he sees Heisenberg murdering his enemies with poison, shivs, and explosions. A proper villain. So when Nebuchadnezzar wakes from his own nightmare, the greatest villain to ever exist reveals the true meaning of evil. Chad, meet the Antichrist. Later in this book, we'll come back to what Chad saw. But there was another, John, who also happened to have a vision of the Antichrist. On Patmos. John certainly read the book of Daniel. He absolutely heard Jesus give a different end times talk right before his crucifixion. And by the year 95 AD, John could have read all the other biblical references to the end times. So he was fairly familiar with the prophecies before his sandcastle was destroyed by the angelic foot on Patmos. The angel that visited him downloaded a lot of content that this book will not get into. In those opening chapters, it gives him symbolic messages for the seven churches, and then jumps right into the seven seals. After the seven seals, the information pivots to talk of the two witnesses. Check out Examining the Beloved Disciple, before John takes a short lunch break. And then Revelation 12 gets dropped on his lap. To keep it short, I believe this chapter helps explain the backstory of Satan and the war between light and dark that is about to be discussed. Remember, much of the prophecies in chapters 1 through 12 have been about what happens to humans. But after chapter 12, it gets a little more cosmic in nature. John is shown the backstory so that he understands the second half of the prophecy. And cue Darth Vader music. Revelation 13:1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and his great authority. Beast from sea. That's all we get for a moniker. In fact, the term Antichrist isn't used in the book of Revelation. Yet this is who or what we're talking about. Buried in all the visuals, we'll get our details about him. 7 heads, 10 horns with 10 crowns. A blasphemous name. Animal symbolism. Dragon? Oh, I know that one. That one is Satan, but the other stuff. We'll keep going. Revelation 13:3. And I saw one of the heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which give power to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Wounded head. Healing. Worship? What impresses them so much? We'll keep going. 13:5. And there was given unto him a mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have a ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. 42 months. I wonder why that's so specific. And how do you blaspheme God? How is this different from other villains? Again, more worship talk. Kill by the sword, it's going to get rough. And then cue the Breaking Bad theme song. Verse 11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, and he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and he caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Wait, there's more? Yep, the beast from the earth is a different monster altogether, and we'll save a whole chapter for him. This beast seems to be a little bit more supernatural, since he's the one who heals Mr. Beast from the Sea. Mr. Earth seems almost like a wizard. 13:13. And he doeth great wonders, so that he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceives them that dwell in the earth by the means of those miracles, which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword, and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast could both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. All right. Notice the miracles. How will we be duped? An image of the beast? Like a Captain Kirk mask? Whatever it is, though, folks will be impressed. Verse 16. And he causes all, both great, small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Now, this one gets people really worked up, which is why I'm going to skip it for this book. Do I have theories? Yep. Do I have enough confidence to argue them? Nope. But it can't be as obvious as the Arabic number 666, right? Didn't John use Roman numerals? Characteristics recap. So, just from this passage, we can learn all sorts of information about Mr. C, the Antichrist, and Mr. Earth, his prophet. World leader. To do the stuff described, Mr. C will need to be a world leader. We've had plenty of tyrants, despots, and dictators, but Mr. C appears to have global outreach. 42 months. One of the disciples asked Jesus when the world was going to end. Basically got a shrug. Daniel was asked when the world was going to end, and he got another shrug. However, using improved Google search term, ask, after the day of tribulation, how much time will be left until the end of the world? And you'll get it right down to the day. Seriously, let there be no more delay. When the Antichrist officially takes power, he only gets a limited time. 42 months. That's just 3.5 years or so. Get the good guys. Remember how America reacted to Pearl Harbor or 9/11? Something is going to happen around Seal 6 that will make the world rally behind their new leader, Mr. Beast from the Sea. Christians are going to take the blame. They will need to be removed so that the rebuild can happen. This is the Brave New World Purge. Team Antichrist. From barcodes to implanted chips, there are a million options for how to imagine the 666 prophecy. But at its heart, Mr. C will be controlling commerce. Like in the 70s, no tiki, no washi. The 10. These are the puppet masters behind the scenes that will throw their support behind Mr. C. Remember, the world only learns about them at the very, very end, even though they might be around today. The lack of details means this one can get interpreted in a variety of ways, so I'll ignore this one, even though I could toss out a dozen theories. Immortality. Why does anyone fear God? While we certainly want more life, the fear of God often comes with our fear of consequence. Hell. What if Mr. C could give you immortality without any consequence? Who'd need God then? He becomes his own Exhibit A. Folks knew him back when, but he died, and then came back. We have no visual evidence of Jesus doing this, but apparently Mr. C will be able to convince the whole world of his miracle. Tricky, tricky. Another concept, the wingman. While Mr. C, aka the Antichrist, is both Exhibit A and also the leader, it is Mr. Earth, the prophet, that does all the dirty work. He works his magic. He plots. He executes. Pun intended. He tricks. Yet he is uniquely different from Mr. C. Another clue. Hates Babylon. Now, this is another big topic that I'll skip for this book, the meaning of Babylon. While there is a little good in Babylon, she's mostly awful. Yet in the cosmic fight of good versus evil, Mr. C hates Babylon. The enemy of my enemy is my friend? Not quite so sure with Babylon. Characteristic? 7 heads. Now, all of these characteristics involve those last 42 months. But I believe the 7 heads part of the prophecy tries to explain where the Antichrist is going to come from. Hidden in this prophecy will be the key to how Mr. Earth will trick the whole planet into worshiping Mr. C. Most of this book will be dedicated to understanding this single part of prophecy, which, luckily for us, is flat out explained by an angel. The Prophecy Explained. We have to skip ahead several chapters, don't you just love cliffhangers, before we get around to our explanation. I'll include all the references to Babylon, important but not for this book, since the seven heads prophecy is snuck in there. Chapter 17, verse 11. And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked to me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sits upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Kings of the earth? Like 10 of them? It continues. Verse 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was written a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Now, focus on the 7 heads. Verse 7. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and the beast that carries her, which hath the 7 heads and the 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains upon which the woman sits. And there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. Was, is not, shall, past and future, yet dead. Yeesh. More wonder and awe regarding Mr. C. Not written, An abomination, wisdom. Oh boy, let my autistic brain try. So heads equals mountains equals kings, it gets more specific though. 5 have fallen, which means they're dead. 1 is alive, and then there is not yet to come is future to John in 95 AD. A traditional interpretation of that passage focuses on trying to understand Babylon, which is probably important. A couple decades ago, folks were freaking out about Babylon in Iraq because of the man with the sinister mustache, Saddam Hussein. Yes, Babylon's ruins are in modern-day Iraq. Other folks freak out about the 7 Hills passage. Why? Well, the city of Rome is built on 7 hills, kinda. And where is the Catholic Church based? Babylon equals Catholic Church? If I wanted to, I suppose I could stretch that theory to fit. I've encountered other theories that America is the modern-day Babylon, but as fun as it is to compare Hecate and the Statue of Liberty, this theory takes a lot of elasticity. I encountered an eccentric theory about the 7 mountains aligning with the 7 chakra mountains in the rebirth of paganism. Now, I'm using that one for a novel series because it's got some really good geography, but not a lot of tangible support for Babylon. I've read theories that get so watered down that Babylon is represented by modern Christianity in its apostasy. So if you don't mind, I'm skipping Babylon theories in this book. Now, here is where it gets tricky. The 8th is of the 7. If you have the wisdom to understand the 7, then you'll certainly understand the eighth, who is the beast of the sea, or more commonly, the Antichrist. So let's focus on that part of the prophecy. Synonyms and Antichrist. Folks already have preconceived notions about the Antichrist. To sum them all up, he'll hate Israel, big list of candidates, is likely a Russian businessman who works at the United Nations and is in private business. He ties his left shoelaces first, and we'll name his cat Bubastis. You know, that guy. Or it's anyone who claims to be Jesus, or an Islamic Messiah, or a Jewish Messiah. Perhaps all of the above. Do you see what I mean about trying to call this stuff like it's the next play in a football game? I told you they should have run the draw play. Eventually, the coach will run the draw play and you'll look like Nostradamus. So, looking back at the seven who create the eighth, the Antichrist, seemed to be a bit more tangible way of getting a scoop. I've come to realize that modern Christianity likes meme-level simplicity. Satan, it's all his fault. Yet the evil pantheon described seems to be anything but simple. Now granted, I like complexity, so I'm not a fan of lumping everything together to satanify wickedness. Do you remember Jesus describing a house divided? Jesus name-dropped both Satan and Beelzebub to make a point about birds of a feather sticking together. Even in the last chapters of Revelation, the bad guys are Apollyon, the beast from the earth, the beast from sea, death, Hades. See what I mean about complexity? You know, you throw in Satan, the devil aka Lucifer, and it gets even more complicated. But let's focus on the names for the Antichrist. In a nutshell, here are some of the commonly used phrases: son of perdition, Antichrist, man of sin, the abomination of desolation. Title number 1, son of a bleep. There was a fascinating word for me found in Revelation 17:11, and it's not the Bill Clinton definition of is. The word is perdition. Revelation 17:11 reads, "And the beast that was and is not, even he is the eighth, and is of the seven, and goeth into perdition." The word perdition basically means destruction, ruin, loss, and eternal ruin. It's a fun word, but it's been used in several other contexts, which piqued my curiosity and sent me down a very dark rabbit hole. Here is an overview of my underlined occurrences of perdition. 1 Timothy 6, perdition equals destruction. Philippians 1:28, it's a token of perdition. Philippians 3:19, the end is perdition. 1 Corinthians 1:18, the way to perdition, including 2 Corinthians 4:3, the way to perdition. 2 Peter 2:1, 2:3, and 3:7, the perdition of ungodly men. Hebrews 10:39, into perdition. And John 17:12, the son of perdition. Now, it is that last passage where the bottom of the rabbit hole dropped out for me. Until that passage, I was doing okay with the definition matching up with the modern curse of, you can go to perdition. You know, it's a bad place. Very clear. The Greek word is apollimi, Apollymi, apollimi, okay, which is very close to another name used, Apollyon. Not clear. it can be a noun or a verb. No problem with that either. But look at how John, or in this case, Jesus, used it. John 17:12. While I was with them in the world, I kept them in thy name. Those that thou gavest me I have kept, and none of them is lost, but the son of perdition, that the scripture might be fulfilled. Now, as an English teacher, I'm going to use personification. But the way Jesus used the phrase is alarming on multiple levels. First, this is a cool fulfillment of Psalm 41. Check that one. Second, this passage has that predestination and free will conundrum. On one hand, Jesus flexes when he says he's lost none of them, in reference to the disciples that God gave him, which leans towards the free will side of things, i.e., he could have lost them, but he didn't. On the other hand, Jesus brings up Judas, who had just left the room, and says that Judas was never his to lose since he was the son of perdition. Dang, what is this all about? Again, it's not in my nature to satanify everything evil into one basket. Remember, Satan is not the last enemy to be destroyed in the end times. Heck, he was once an angel, remember? Ask Ezekiel. Okay, who personified evil before Satan fell? Ooh. Perhaps the only way to understand John is to use another verse from John. Check out John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. Now, we get some more personification there. Granted, this is a pretty cool passage about the eternal nature of Jesus, but stuck in there is the opposite of light, the darkness. Christ brought life into the universe, and the opposite of that is death, destruction, the darkness. So could perdition equal darkness? Being a son of darkness explains why the soul of Judas is different than any of the other disciples. His soul was never struggling with good and evil. It was evil from inception. His father was perdition. So, does the darkness have a name? Perhaps it does. If the light is Jesus, then the dark is... if we only had a verse that followed parallel construction like this. Oh, wait, we do. So check out 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14. This is what it says. Be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? See, we've got parallels there. Righteousness, unrighteousness. Okay. What communion hath light with darkness? And what concord hath Christ with Belial? Or what part hath he with that believeth with an infidel? Okay. So as Paul tried to make a parallel argument, he equates darkness to a proper name, Belial. See what I mean about this rabbit hole? Belial is a deep, dark, nasty hole, but I believe it explains a lot. There are a couple dozen Old Testament references to Belial, and just like perdition, it can be used in a variety of ways. Many modern translations just remove it as a proper name, so there are no complicated questions being asked. I mean, Belial is bad? That's how things get satanified. Now, most of the English words for Belial or Beliar get changed to rebel or worthless. Remember, Satan was once an angel, and what did he do? He Beliared. He rebelled. Belial is the spirit of rebellion. So if the sins of the father are passed down from generation to generation, those who turn to Belial, like I believe Satan might have, become the children of Belial, or even the sons of Belial. Since this is a book dealing with end times, remember that Satan is not the last enemy. The final two enemies of Jesus are death and Hades. So when I read it, this is how I see it. Death equals perdition equals Belial, evil personified. Hades equals Beelzebub. Both are underworld gatekeepers. New topic. Here be dragons. Okay, I got a little off track with that last section, but later on, I'll be trying to explain how being a son of perdition or son of Belial might matter in the end. Mr. C and Mr. Earth have their roots in this big family tree of evil. Before I get into the other three titles for the Antichrist, let's deal with the dragon in the room. Are dragons reptiles? Sure. Are serpents reptiles? Yes. Do biologists observe dragons today? No. Does lore suggest dragons breathe fire? Yes. Does Leviathan breathe fire? Yes. Does the Leviathan have wings? Yes. Do angels have wings? Yes. Do angels have multiple heads or faces? Okay, yes. Do dragons have multiple heads or faces? Okay, yes. Was Satan once an angel? Got it, yes. Are there water dragons described in the Bible? Certainly. Could dragons be crocodiles? The Leviathan is not a crocodile. Could the snake in the Garden of Eden be a dragon? Why not? Throughout the Old Testament, dragons represent forces of chaos, like Belial in our world. From Rahab to Leviathan, there seems to be a number of them. Did God deal with them in the early days? After the fall? During the flood? It's not exactly clear, is it? Most cultures on the planet, Earth, incorporate dragons, with most of them representing the forces of chaos. Multi-headed dragons were common symbols from Greek mythology to Mesopotamian legends. When John is shown the red dragon who tries to kill the woman and the child, he would have understood the symbolism of the red dragon representing Satan. Revelation 12, to me, is a backstory, a retelling of the fall in order to explain the redemption. As the Word, Jesus is a good writer after all. He understands character arcs even when dealing with bullies and villains. But is the beast the same as the red dragon? While they all belong to the house of darkness, I like to argue that Satan wants to delay his punishment for as long as he can. No criminal wants to go to electric chair, right? The two beasts, however, have different motivations than the red dragon. Yes, the Antichrist is similar to Satan, which is why they both have 7 heads. But Satan was once an angel of light. The Antichrist is not a child of Satan. He is a son of perdition. He wants death and destruction. New topic. Title number 2, the Antichrist. The book of Revelation doesn't actually use the term Antichrist, yet it is John who uses the term in his letters. As a concept, everything about the beast is antithetical to what Jesus represents. So he's both opposite and against, thus anti. I wrote an entire book on John the Beloved Disciple, and it is my view that he wrote Revelation, then the letters, and finally his gospel. I mean, I could be wrong. Remember, he first encountered the Antichrist prophecy when he was just a kid hanging out with Jesus. So let's look at Matthew chapter 24, verses 3 through 5. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world? And Jesus answered them, and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of war. See that you be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. All of these are the beginnings of sorrows. So this passage gives us a few interesting details regarding the Antichrist. The disciples, or John, asks when the end times will be, and for the most part, Jesus shrugs it off by saying a whole bunch of stuff needs to happen before we get to the end times. He walks John through seals 1, 2, 3, and 4 in this section, finishing by saying these things are the beginning of the end times. So what's the big clue? Seal number 6. This other stuff, well, it's bad, but not seal 6 bad. Within the passage, however, Jesus throws in a unique nugget: multiple Christ claimers, which is another way of saying multiple antichrists, isn't it? Now, many, is that 2, 3, several? This leads to another John passage. Let's look at 1 John chapter 2, verse 18 to see what other insights can be learned. Verse 18, Little children, it is the last time, and as ye have heard that Antichrist shall come. Now, even now there are many antichrists, whereby we know that it is the last time. They went out from us, but they were not of us. For if they had been of us, they would no doubt have continued with us. But they went out, that they might be made manifest that they were not all of us. But you have an unction from the Holy One, and know all things. I have not written unto you because you know not the truth, but because you know it. And that is no lie is of the truth. Who is a liar but he that denies that Jesus is the Christ? He is Antichrist that denies the Father and the Son. Whosoever denies the Son, the same hath not the Father. But he that acknowledges the Son hath the Father also. Let that therefore abide in you, which you have heard from the beginning. If that which you have heard from the beginning shall remain in you, you shall continue in the Son and in the Father. First, I love how this is now Old John, likely written in the 2nd century, after he'd written the book of Revelation. They are little children to this old man. Next, I'm impressed by how heavily he leans into the Trinity. God equals Jesus equals the Holy Spirit. I mean, for him, you can't pick and choose. He's dealing with the 2nd century Gnosticism at this time, so that makes sense why he's being so specific. Notice how he also defines the spirit of the Antichrist as a liar and a denier that Jesus is the only way to redemption with the Father. I mean, pretty clear. I can certainly agree that John's being a bit grandiose in this section. After all, in this time period, Gnostics were dressed up like Christianity, yet espousing opposite doctrines. It was a very confusing time for new converts. So, talk of the Antichrist could certainly be dumbed down to mean fake Christians. I have no problem with this. However, there it is. Many Antichrists. How many? What does this mean? I also picked up on that son of perdition tone Jesus used when talking about Judas never being up for grabs because predestined. In the same passage, he brings up Antichrist. John claims that they were not of us. Now, could that be they weren't from Galilee, or they weren't Jewish, or they simply weren't good? It's unclear, isn't it? The whole made manifest point seems to be that God created these folks to help get us from the Garden era to the New Jerusalem era, which is the ultimate goal and a good thing. He needs these sons of perdition to do their things to push the story closer and closer to the final chapter. Now, a bit later, John adds more to this Antichrist concept. Take a look at 1 John 4:3. In every spirit that confesses not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is not of God. And this is that spirit of Antichrist, whereof you have heard that it should come, and even now already is in the world. You are of God, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. They are of the world, therefore speak they of the world, and the world heareth them. Again, strong anti-Gnostic preaching going on here. But here's a question. Does he mean the Spirit is now in the world, or the Antichrist is now in the world? Unless he's a 2,000-year-old vampire, Antichrist, it most likely means the Spirit. Yet, I love how John uses the plural word them when talking about how the light has overcome them. He finishes by saying the Antichrists that have been overcome are of the world. I mean, beast of earth? John brings the same point up in another letter. I mean, check out 2 John 1:7. It reads, For many deceivers are entered into the world, who confess not that Jesus is come in the flesh. This is a deceiver and an antichrist. Again, John is dealing with the Gnostic heresy here, but in his arguments, he clearly establishes that there is not a single antichrist, but many antichrists. How many could there be? That's a question now bouncing around in my brain. So, new topic. Title number 3, The Man of Sin. One of the best descriptions of the Antichrist can be found in Paul's second letter to the Thessalonians. Remember that even though the book of Revelation has not been written, Nebuchadnezzar freaked out about the Antichrist 6 centuries earlier. John heard more about it on the Mount of Olives. This is what it was said. Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, and by our gathering together unto him, that you be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter, as from us, as that the day of Christ is at hand. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he is God, sitteth in the temple, showing himself that he is God. Remember ye not that, when I was yet with you, I told you these things. And now you know that withholding that he may be revealed in his time. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he now will be, gotta love King James, until he be taken out of the way. And then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. For this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they might all be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. Okay, just a quick aside. I purposely choose the King James because I like to see how the English language kind of changes over the last 400 years. So I'm causing myself all sorts of issues. Okay, let's continue. Lies, deception, signs, wonders. Humanity is going to get tricked hard, apparently. Paul echoes what John said and took it up a notch when he establishes that the Antichrist is not just going to be a deceiver, but that he will also claim to be God. I mean, that's a human with a big ego. But we've seen this claimed before in history, haven't we? Notice how Paul connects the phrase man of sin with son of perdition. Verse 8 is often translated to the lawless one. Where here it only says wicked. Even though I could dumb this all down by saying the Antichrist is bad, these phrases help link to other areas of the Bible. New topic. Title number 4, The Abomination of Desolation. The great bully Nebuchadnezzar dreamt of the Antichrist and the things leading up to his arrival on earth. In fact, Daniel added a whole bunch more, we'll have a chapter in Daniel, about the end times and the Antichrist, including his big finish in Daniel 12. Now, this is what it says. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away and the abomination that makes desolation set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Blessed is he that waits and comes to the 1,335 days. But go thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest and stand in thy lot at the end of days. Now remember how Paul talked about the man of sin being revealed in his time? This section seems to echo the idea that the Antichrist will appear shortly before the apocalypse. The phrase abomination of desolation is most commonly used and is found in several other different spots, including a different prophecy from Daniel in chapter 9. This is what it says, verse 27. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and obligation to cease. For the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured out upon the desolate. Now, here's a big jump to conclusions mistake that folks made in the time of Jesus. I mean, it was a complicated prophecy, but getting an 80% on any prophecy is failure when Jesus is trying to warn you. Now, did Nebuchadnezzar dream of the Antichrist? Yes. You got a 1 out of 1. Are the 4 beasts described in Daniel related to the Antichrist? Yes. You went 2 for 2. Does Antiochus Epiphanes have a connection to the Antichrist? Yes. 3 for 3. Did Antiochus Epiphanes desecrate the temple and stop the daily sacrifice? Technically, yes. You got a 4 out of 4. Is Antiochus Epiphanes the abomination of desolation? Apparently not. so much of the prophecy fit, and we'll come back to this, don't worry, that the folks look at Antiochus Epiphanes and apply things to, head number 8, the Antichrist, that our Chads, Mr. Chad, Nebuchadnezzar, worried about it. But Jesus took a moment during his end times talk in the Mount of Olives to clarify that the abomination of desolation prophecy mentioned by Daniel has not happened yet. Matthew, Mark, and Luke all wrote this one down. John wrote the book of Revelation, so why waste ink? Here is how Matthew said it in chapter 24, verse 15. When you therefore see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, and then Jesus coyly says, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of the house. Neither let him which is in the field turn back to take his clothes. And woe unto them which are with child, and to them which give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight may not be in winter, neither on the Sabbath day. For then shall be a great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. See? Still to come. Jesus even gets a little bit snarky with, whoso readeth, let him understand. The whole world didn't come to an end 3.5 years after Antiochus Epiphanes rode a pig through the Temple of Solomon, because that's not what the prophecy meant, apparently. Now, I'll get back to this point with the whole chapter on Antiochus Epiphanes, and also a whole chapter on triggers for the end times. But for now, just know that the phrase abomination of desolation has some pretty dark tones to it.